Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. From now through May 6th, if you use that promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing to win a War of the Spark booster box. See the description below for details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and we have some more War of the Spark preview cards to recap and analyze for you. So we have everything that came out over the last 24 hours or so. Sources are in the description below as always, and let's get into it. Our first card is Karn, the Great Creator. Now, this was part of that big leak about a week ago, so we already talked about this card. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it today, but I will say this about it. This is the reason Mycosynth Lattice spiked last week. This could see Modern play. This will definitely see Commander play. Chandra, Fire Artisan, another card that was leaked last week. Last week when I saw this card, I did say I think it could make it into Standard, maybe in some red aggro builds, and I still feel that way. This keeps pressure on. If you want to get rid of Chandra, you're going to take some damage, and it also lets you see more cards. Two things those decks want to do. Now, the downside is the forecasting cost. There's a lot of really good spells it's competing with when it comes to those archetypes, but I do think you might be able to work one, maybe two of these in your deck. Is definitely worth testing there. Goes without saying, this is an awesome sealed or draft card if you're lucky enough to open this rare. Law Rune Enforcer, awesome limited card. Any of these creatures that are going to tap something down are always amazing if they're cheap enough. This one only costs 1. It's a 1/2, which is kind of nice. It makes it a little less fragile compared to many 1-drops. And the activation cost isn't on color, which is nice, but remember, the amass tokens have 0 casting cost, so this is weak against them. It is still going to tap down some big creatures you might be up against, though. Great way to defend yourself or get past a board stall. Vizier of the Scorpion. Okay, here's the card in black that is going to give zombie tokens a benefit. This time it's Death Touch. It also has a Mass 1 attached to it as well. For Standard, it's not thrilling to me because even if a zombie token deck gets there, I don't think Death Touch is going to be that consequential in most Standard games. I think the flying that we saw the other day attached to the blue creature was a lot more interesting. This is a zombie wizard though, so make note of that. For limited purposes, I think this is a little bit better. If I pay 3 and I don't have a zombie army token in play, then I get 2 1/1 creatures, one of them has Death Touch. That's not too bad for 3 mana, although I will say if the creature gets bigger over time, then Death Touch might become a little inconsequential. There are diminishing returns there. Putting Death Touch on like a 7/7 creature isn't going to be super thrilling for you necessarily. So ultimately, it's a good limited card that you will definitely want to play if you're going in the amass direction. You might still play even if you're not, just for the 1/1 Death Touch token. There are worse things you could be doing for 3 mana, but sometimes you'll have better things too. Chandra's Pyrohelix. Now this one's a reprint, probably familiar to you. Again, another card that's going to be very solid in your limited games. 2 damage for 2 instant speed, can hit any target and can be split. Yeah, the versatility's nice, it's cheap, it's fast. Not necessarily something you're going to play in Standard, but in Sealed or Draft, yes, you're going to be happy to have this. Chandra's Triumph. This is an instant 2 casting cost spell that again will do damage, but only to creature or planeswalker. Does more damage if you control a Chandra. So this is another card that I feel like is going to be more for limited than anything else because you do have Lightning Strike in the Standard format. However, there are people that like to play Chandra Tribal. I have seen variations of that deck for Legacy and Modern, although it's usually a Commander deck. With that being said, I just wanted to point out, it looks like Dovin is maybe getting put out of his misery here, and you'll get that joke in just a few moments. Jaya, Venerated Fire Mage. This is one of those planeswalkers that feels more like a limited card to me, and that's okay. Out of 37, right, you know some of them are not going to be Standard playable. This one, it's not a bad card, it's just that the decks that want this card don't want to pay 5 for it. Ultimately, remember, it says another red source you control, so it doesn't do 3 damage, it only does 2 damage, but in a game of limited, that 2 damage could be good enough. If I'm playing this for 5 and getting a couple shocks out of it, and that's all, that's really not too bad. Sometimes there'll be more value to be had, I'm sure, but definitely a strong card there, but something that I don't think is going to cross over well into Standard. Jaya's Greeting. Okay, I might love the name, art, and flavor text of this card more than anything I've seen in a long time. This is amazing. The card itself, don't really see it in Standard. I don't think it's going to knock out Lightning Strike just because, yes, Scry 1 is pretty nice, but going to the face can be even nicer. This only hits a creature. Can't touch a Planeswalker either. So sadly, I don't see it there, but again, in Limited, you're going to love this thing. Dovin Hand of Control. I'm not real excited about this one. I just don't think it's doing enough. It is cheap, I'm going to give it that. Hybrid mana gives it flexibility, and then it's also 5 loyalty. But okay, artifacts, instants, and sorceries are going to cost 1 more for my opponent to cast. Doesn't touch creatures, doesn't touch planeswalkers. The -1 until your next turn prevent all damage that would be dealt to and dealt by target permanent and opponent controls. Again, just 1 permanent just feels a little bit underwhelming. If I do play this, I might be able to slow down 1 creature or 1 planeswalker perhaps if it's going to do damage. But I'm not able to stabilize. If I'm behind, I'm just slowing things down and I'm just treading water. And if I'm ahead, I'm not really doing anything. Maybe it could help me a little bit in a board stall, but honestly, I just feel like it's not going to do enough, even for the low casting cost of 3. I don't really feel it for standard. Maybe someone will figure something out. Granted, you might consider sideboarding it in against the Phoenix or Drake deck because of the instants and sorceries there. Honestly, though, if you don't hit this thing on turn 3, it's not going to do a whole lot. It's going to feel like a dead draw later. And if you do hit it on turn 3, you're just slowing down your opponent. You're not actually being proactive at all. For limited, I kind of feel the same way. It's a little better there, obviously, because you can kind of nullify your opponent's best creature or their best permanent that might do damage to you. So I would play it there, don't get me wrong, but am I going to be super excited about this? Probably not, for the same reasons I mentioned with standard. What about Commander? Is it playable there? Well, I don't know, maybe in some of those blue efficiency decks, but those are pretty stacked, and I don't know if they want to make room for this. You could put this maybe in Pillow Fort, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's doing enough. Shutting down 1 permanent from doing damage, maybe there's 1 permanent out there that can still get past your shields. Well, okay, but I don't think that's always going to be the case. So, yeah, I don't know. I was very underwhelmed by this one. Saheeli, Sublime Artificer. Now, this one I'm not underwhelmed by, and I do think this could see some standard play. Here's my thought. Okay, in some ways, Murmuring Mystic is simply better. It does cost 1 more, and yes, it only activates with an instant or sorcery, but it makes 1/1 flyers. This costs 3, so that's good, and it also gives you a little flexibility in the casting cost there with Hybrid. And this will make a token when you cast a non-creature spell, but it's a 1/1 servo token, so it's not in the air. But here's what pushes this card for me, the -2. If I put this in an Is It Drake deck, then I can make a servo, turn that servo into a Drake, until end of turn. Doesn't seem like a bad play. I think you might see 1 or 2 ofs creep into some of those builds. This can be good in draft or sealed too by making a copy of your best creature until end of turn at some point, if nothing else. Saheeli Silverwing. This is not too exciting, even in limited. Like, sometimes you will play it, especially in sealed, because you need evasion. Looking at my opponent's top card, okay, that's fine, but I'd rather just be able to only pay 3 for this and not see their top card, if you follow me there. I just don't like the fact that this costs 4. Like I said, it's not unplayable, something that does fit into any deck, which is nice. It's there if you need it. Alright, those are our cards for today, so we're going to come back tomorrow, do the same thing, but until next time, thanks for watching, please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day! Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.